Commander Reyes felt the last tremor of the warp engines fade into a profound hush. All at once, the constant low-frequency roar that had been her companion for weeks dissolved, leaving only the soft hum of life support and the distant twinkle of dying stars. Before her, Oleos Prime loomed, a shattered monument of crystalline towers fractured by centuries of bombardment. Beneath a blood-red sun, jagged spires cast fractured shadows over cratered plazas. Silence reigned, but on her bridge, every eye burned with anticipation. This moment, fraught, electric, impossible, would decide if humor could truly topple tyranny. Without breaking composure, Reyes tapped her console. The bridge lights dimmed, and a single holobeam ignited in the center of the deck. A figure flickered into existence, a legendary Terran comic delivering a timeless punchline. Why did the photon cross the galaxy? To prove even light can't dodge human humor. Laughter, a mere echo in the void, burst from the recording. In an instant, every monitor across the Dominion channels broadcast that very jest. The crew exchanged startled glances, shock, amusement, disbelief. Lieutenant Ree's brow furrowed as she peered at the screens. "Commander, they'll think this is a taunt." Her voice, usually steady, quavered with nervous energy. Reyes turned, her eyes alight. "Precisely," she replied. "Fear is expected. Confusion is our edge." Ree swallowed, then nodded. No one here had forgotten the Empire's merciless reputation. But in this adrenaline-charged silence, humor itself felt like the deadliest weapon. Moments later, the first wave of microsatellites detached from the Audacity's bay doors. Each tiny drone spun free, their surfaces gleaming. As they drifted toward the Dominion dreadnought, they projected vivid holographic vaudeville, juggling clowns pirouetting around enemy gun turrets, rubber chickens flopping across targeting scopes, and record players blaring slapstick soundtracks. A ripple of mirth, silent to onlookers but vivid in the minds of those targeted, swept through the human fleet. Engineers monitored telemetry, nodding with grim satisfaction at the chaos unfolding. On the Dominus Rex, Imperial gunnery crews staggered to their consoles. A veteran gunner, his gaunt face illuminated by warning lights, reached out to align his sights, and recoiled as a virtual pie splattered convincingly across his viewport. His partner snorted, nearly toppling from the recoil chair. "Control, remove these distractions," he barked. But each command spawned another comedic projection, honking noses, sputtering seltzer bottles, and holographic banana peels slithering across their floor panels. Sensors jammed. Target locks flickered. Discipline crumbled into uncontrollable guffaws. Above the mayhem, an alarm blared aboard the Empire flagship. Grand Chancellor Zervin Malker strode from his private sanctum, robe trailing, eyes aflame with indignation. He reached the command dais just as his admiral scrambled to provide a situation report. "Your Excellency, unknown devices are projecting unauthorized simulacra across our perimeter defenses. Crews are incapacitated by laughter." Malker's scowl deepened. "Laughter," he repeated, as though the word itself tasted like ash. "This is no mere jest. This is psychological warfare." "Indeed, Chancellor," the Admiral conceded, voice quavering. "Never have we encountered such tactics. They disrupt cohesion, erode willpower." Malker's lips curled in a contemptuous sneer. "Then we shall prepare a demonstration of true power," he declared. "Strip them of joy. Show them the unyielding might of the Dominion." He glanced at a rising trajectory plot on his view screen, thousands of graviton torpedoes locked on the Audacity. Ready full barrage. Back on the human vessel, Reyes watched the ominous signatures bloom across her tactical display. In the moments before impending destruction, she issued calm directives: raise shields to maximum. Divert power to point defense. Maintain formation. Her tone was measured, betraying no hint of fear. Around her, operators executed orders with precision honed through countless simulations. The silent library of battered manuals and data logs had prepared them for this exact moment, standing firm under the glare of overwhelming force. As shields flared to life, casting an emerald dome around the Audacity, Reyes activated a private comm channel. She recorded a short message, her voice soft but unwavering. To whoever hears this, if you can laugh, you retain the capacity to surrender. She paused, a brief, wry smile touching her lips. Then she added, proceed whenever you're ready. The recording ceased. On either side of her console, two officers exchanged looks, one of thrill, the other of solemn resolve. Across the void, the Dominion torpedoes began their approach, trails of dark matter arcing toward human defiance. For a heartbeat, everything held its breath, the hush of space, the distant hum of engines, the latent whispers of possibility. Then the first warhead touched the shield. A pulse of energy bloomed, rippling outward in concentric waves. Reports pinged in, shields held. And somewhere deep within the enemy armada, a ripple of amusement, now mingled with horror, began to spread as the Dominion officers realized they were locked in a duel of wits far more perilous than any battle of lasers. In that electric instant, Commander Reyes allowed herself a single thought: humor had breached the fortress walls. The galaxy would never be the same. Commander Reyes watched the tactical display as streaks of dark matter bloomed into view, gravimetric torpedoes arcing in perfect volleys toward the Audacity. Each warhead, the size of a small moon, bore payloads designed to punch through the toughest shields. The bridge crackled with restrained urgency, weapons officers adjusted energy matrices, engineers rerouted auxiliary power, every hand hovered over its station, ready for her command. Outside the viewport, Oleos Prime's ruined spires glinted faintly under the dying sun, as if offering distant testimony to centuries of conflict. Shields at 80%, reported Lieutenant Cara Min, fingers dancing over her console. Reyes inclined her head, calculating. Divert 20% auxiliary to forward capacitors. Maintain current vector, but be prepared to pivot starboard. Her voice carried assured calm, yet every syllable crackled with purpose. Behind her, the hum of thrusters subtly shifted as power flowed where it was needed most. On a vessel built for Audacity, precision was its greatest weapon. Above the warhead's telemetric cloud, human ingenuity slipped into play. In a hidden bay, 50 decoy drones disgorged into volleys of chromatic haze. Programmed to project theatrical slapstick, giant banana peels, cartoon slipstreams, and hyper-realistic soundtracks of rimshots, they drifted toward Empire sensors. Each illusion was a meticulously coded loop, designed to scramble targeting algorithms and distract hardened gunners. The fleet's engineers had spent sleepless weeks perfecting these banana peel satellites, convinced that ridicule could shield them as effectively as alloys. Moments later, Dominus Rex's targeting network hiccuped. On its bridge, veteran gunner Merrick leaned forward, eyes narrowing at a row of hostile vessels. He aligned his scope on the Audacity. Just as he prepared to fire, a colossal banana peel unfurled across his viewport with a sickening squelch. His boots slid across the deck plating, he lurched backward, grabbing a console rail to steady himself. A whoop of delirious laughter erupted from the crew bulkhead. Sensors flagged a critical error: decoy holograms had jammed the fire control subsystems. Reyes allowed herself the briefest of smiles. Targeting feeds are compromised, she asked Ree, who stood at her shoulder. Ree's eyes flickered over her readouts. Comms show multiple decoy signatures. They're tripping over illusions instead of chasing our shields. Reyes exhaled, tone wry, let them chase peel projections while we thread the needle. She tapped the intercom. All wings, commence vector thrust pattern Charlie Delta. Keep them guessing. Across orbital space, within the vaulted halls of the Empire flagship, Grand Chancellor Zervin Malker raged. He strode into the Strategy Council's chamber, robes swirling, gold insignia glinting in the ambient red glow of warning lights. Around him, advisors and admirals clustered like startled birds. Explain, he demanded, voice cold and clipped. An admiral, shaken, spoke first. Devices, unknown to our archives, are projecting simulacra across our rangefinders. Crews are incapacitated by uncontrollable mirth, Your Excellency. Malker's gaze cut through the room. Mirth, he repeated, as though the syllable stung his tongue. This is no trivial disturbance. This is an affront to Dominion authority. Another officer, attempting composure, added, "They call it psychological warfare, a tactic to unravel our cohesion. Our torpedoes cannot lock on until the distractions cease." Malker's knuckles whitened around a polished railing. His lips twitched in silent fury. "Find a remedy," he hissed. "We will not tolerate this cosmic mockery. Prepare an EMP cascade, erase every projection." Advisors scurried to obey, but behind their eyes flickered doubt. How does one suppress laughter? Meanwhile, hidden in the void between fleet elements, Lieutenant Ree led a 4-man boarding party aboard 2 stealth shuttles. Each pilot bore the weight of this mission, breaching the orbital defense platform that anchored Dominus Rex's sensor net. Ree's voice, calm but firm, crackled over encrypted comms. "Insertion in 30 seconds. Remember, speed, precision, silence." Her team, engineers and infiltrators trained in covert ops, nodded against visors, minds sharpened by months of clandestine drills. The shuttles detached, their exhaust plumes ghostly in the vacuum. Ree front-loaded her nerves as she guided her craft toward the platform's maintenance hatch. Below her feet, twisting conduits channeled power to the dreadnought's turrets. Her objective, plant laughter charges at the nexus of the command uplink, a suite of holoprojectors wired to each ship in the armada. The charges, delicately calibrated, would broadcast an encoded sequence of contagious giggles across every Dominion comm node. Reed's voice steadied as they aligned with the hatch. "Go time," she whispered. In unison, doors slid open. The boarding party spilled into the corridor's harsh fluorescent glow, weapons drawn but silent. Their footsteps, cushioned by shock-absorbing soles, made no sound. Each operative moved methodically, 2 securing the perimeter, 1 hacking the central panel, and Ree herself carrying the charges draped over her shoulder like satchels of hope. Within the command module, the hacker's fingers flew across the data terminal. Encryption keys folded in on themselves, alarms blinked but failed to sever the link. A soft chime signaled success, the projector array was primed. Ree stepped forward, scanning the room's vaulted ceiling and crystalline panels. With deliberate care, she anchored each charge at strategic nodes, like placing lanterns in a darkened hall. The final unit clicked into place with a reassuring beep. She backed away, heart pounding. "Charges planted," she whispered into her comm. "Detonation in 60 seconds. Return to extraction point." Behind her, the terminal displayed the countdown, 60, 59. The echoes of footsteps, distant, urgent, heralded the approach of Imperial reinforcements. Ree's jaw clenched. The moment of reckoning was at hand. In the void beyond, the Audacity drifted on steady thrusters, awaiting the signal. On the bridge, Reyes checked her watch, a simple chrono stamped with the Alliance insignia. 30 seconds remained. She turned to Ree's private channel. "Confirmation?" she asked softly. Ree's reply came quiet but clear, locked in. "Countdown is live. They'll be laughing, literally, either for them or us." A tense beat hung in the air, suspended in the cold of space. Then, as if the universe itself held its breath, the screen blinked. 0. Silence reigned for a heartbeat, then, far off in the Empire fleet, ripples of soundless convulsions began. A shudder rippled through the Dominion armada as every comm node sparked to life with an impossible contagion, laughter. First, it began as a ripple, soft, hesitant chuckles bubbling up in distant corridors. Then, like cosmic resonance, it swelled into full-throated guffaws echoing across halls and corridors. On the Audacity, sensors trembled at the sheer amplitude. The enemy was collapsing under its own amusement. "Unbelievable," murmured Reyes, eyes locked on the wavering waveform displayed on her tactical projector. "They're incapacitated by mirth." She turned to Lieutenant Min. "Feed that to every console, let them hear themselves." Min complied, broadcasting the Empire's own laughter back into its fleet. Instantly, widowed officers doubled over in spasms of hilarity, rolling across polished decks in helpless abandon. Deep within the flagship Dominus Rex, Grand Chancellor Zervin Malker clenched the railing of his dais as his subordinates buffeted him with incoherent reports. Admiral Fallis, tears of mirth trickling down his cheeks, struggled to stand. "Your Excellency," he gasped between sobs of laughter, "we cannot maintain order." Malker's jaw tightened so hard his teeth threatened to shatter. He bellowed, "Shut it off. Silence this atrocity." But his voice only triggered another wave of uproar as hidden laughter charges ricocheted through the dreadnought's audio systems. "Lock it down," Malker roared at two flanking officers. One fumbled with his datapad, staring in disbelief as the mute command failed. The other, unable to focus, collapsed in a fit of hysterics. The Chancellor found himself alone on the command platform, surrounded by convulsing veterans who could neither fight nor flee. In that moment, the unthinkable truth crystallized: authority itself had been hijacked by a punchline. Back at the Audacity, Reyes watched the Dominion fleet's gravlances cease firing as their crews lay incapacitated. She seized the moment. "Helm, begin forward thrust, closing speed 500 meters per second. Engineering, reroute power, full impulse to magnetic grapplers." With decisive authority, she unleashed a squadron of small attack craft bearing grinning insignias across their prows. Each darted forward, magnetic clamps ready to latch onto enemy hulls. On the Dominus Rex, docking magnets snapped against Audacity-class hull plates with a resonant clank. Human boarding teams, emboldened by the enemy's helplessness, stormed across gangways. Rhee led them, weapons drawn but unused. This was a conquest of morale rather than bloodshed. She tapped her comm to Reyes, tactical advantage secured. Minimal resistance. Reyes responded, "Proceed to the bridge. We end this farce with grace." As boarding teams advanced through corridors strewn with incapacitated crew, they encountered soldiers doubled over, clutching console rails, tears streaming. There was no fear in their eyes, only bewilderment. Lieutenant Archer knelt beside one officer, gently pressing a med kit to his back. "You'll live," she reassured, voice soft. Around them, holographic projections of pie fights and pratfalls flickered, looping endlessly, a carnival of chaos that would forever mark this turning point. In the Imperial Council chamber, the final blow struck. Rhee's detachment breached the inner sanctum. Her boots echoed in the vaulted hall as she approached Malker's vacant dais. There, the Chancellor stood alone, robes unsoiled but his expression twisted by fury and exhaustion. He glared at the human officer, lips trembling. "Why?" he began, voice hoarse. Rhee tilted her head, blue eyes unwavering. "Because laughter reminds us we're alive," she replied evenly. "Your empire forgot how to feel." Malker's glare faltered, an instant of doubt etched across his features. Reyes materialized behind Rhee, placing a steady hand on her second-in-command's shoulder. The Chancellor's gasp echoed in the chamber, half defiance, half resignation. "You've defeated us, without a drop of blood," he rasped. Reyes inclined her head. "Fear conquered through humor. You surrendered to a truth older than war, unity through joy." She tapped her comm badge. "Deploy comm broadcast." Moments later, every Dominion vessel, flagships, cruisers, frigates, received a single transmission, a simple, static message graphic against a black screen. "We yield. Humanity's spirit rewrites your destiny. Let laughter guide your peace." Across sectors, ship captains and admirals hovered over consoles, eyes blinking away tears. One by one, they disengaged weapons, sealed hatches, and lowered Imperial banners. The galaxy's most feared fleet had laid down its arms at the sound of genuine laughter. On the Audacity's bridge, a hush settled, yet it was not the oppressive silence of fear but the calm exhalation after collective relief. Reyes surveyed her crew, faces gleaming, chests rising and falling in unison. She allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. "All stations, stand down. We've done it." Around her, subdued applause echoed, a gesture of shared pride rather than triumphal bellows. Outside, Oleo's Prime's scarred skyline welcomed the Alliance's return. Liberation fleets cascaded into orbit, human colonists, starburst in jubilation, broadcast messages of gratitude. On world below, survivors of occupation emerged from underground bunkers, blinking into daylight as ships emblazoned with smiling insignias glided overhead. The chasm of fear had been bridged by irreverent defiance. In the aftermath, Reyes convened a council on the Audacity's upper deck, a makeshift dais overlooking the liberated world. As her officers gathered, she addressed them quietly, reverently. "We set out to prove that even the darkest rain can crack under laughter. You gave everything: skill, courage, imagination. Remember this moment, not for the battles you didn't fight, but for the bonds you fortified." Her gaze drifted to the horizon where two suns danced above crystalline ruins. "The universe has rediscovered humor today. May we never forget how potent our laughter can be." Lieutenant Rhee stepped forward, voice clear and resolute. "Commander, what now?" Reyes turned, her tone softening. "Now, we help rebuild. Offer mercy where it's earned. Teach them resilience, not through fear, but through hope." Around them, the Alliance flag fluttered on a staff planted in cracked stone. Humans and former Dominions alike stood shoulder to shoulder, rays of dawn illuminating faces uplifted by shared possibility. Far above in the black, jester bots, once instruments of distraction, now drifted dormant, scattered like confetti across orbital lanes. Their holograms had faded, but the echo of their mischief lingered. In time, those little devices would be enshrined as relics, reminders that a single joke, delivered with perfect timing, can rewrite the story of worlds. And so, as laughter subsided into hopeful smiles, Commander Talia Reyes allowed herself one final thought: humanity had faced the Empire and, with humor as its vanguard, shown that the truest victories are won not only by force, but by the freedom to laugh. The towering spires of Olios Prime had stood for centuries, symbols of the Dominion's unchallenged might. Now, they stood witness to the collapse of that empire, rubble beneath the weight of human ingenuity and humor. The once pristine crystalline towers were crumbling, their sharp edges softened by the growing cracks of rebellion. And yet, as the sun rose over the cityscape, casting long shadows over the forgotten monuments, Commander Talia Reyes stood with a sense of quiet pride, watching the peace she had fought for begin to settle into reality. The Audacity was anchored in low orbit, the immense warship now silent after its victory. The human fleet had been successful, not by force of arms alone, but by breaking the will of the Empire with something the Dominion never anticipated: laughter. And with the first light of dawn streaming over the desolate world, Reyes turned her attention to the task that lay ahead: rebuilding. She stood at the viewport, her eyes scanning the scene below. The once imposing Dominion fleet, now neutralized, began to lower their weapons, signaling surrender. An awkward yet tangible stillness permeated the space between the ships as officers and crew in both fleets observed the inexplicable truth: they were not at war anymore. They were standing at the edge of something new, something that transcended the simple notion of victory. "Commander," came the voice of Lieutenant Rhee from behind her. Reyes turned, her expression softening. Rhee's face bore a mixture of exhaustion and relief, her usually stoic demeanor unmasked for the first time in weeks. "The Chancellor is awaiting your decision." Reyes nodded slowly, her gaze turning toward the terminal in the center of the room. A transmission had been routed directly from Dominus Rex. Zervin Malker, the once feared leader of the Dominion, had requested an audience. The transmission was calm but laced with the bitter taste of defeat. The laughter, which had been his undoing, had not been forgotten. "Put him through," Reyes commanded, voice steady, but with an edge of curiosity. Moments later, Malker's image flickered into view, a defeated figure in the grandiose uniform of the Dominion, still carrying the remnants of his pride in his posture, but his eyes were tired. There was a heaviness to his expression that no number of grand speeches could mask. "Commander Reyes," he said, his voice gravelly but formal. "It is with great humility that I come to you not as an enemy, but as one who has been bested. By your unconventional tactics, we have been left with no choice but to capitulate." Reyes didn't flinch. "Capitulation wasn't the goal, Chancellor," she replied, her voice tinged with the faintest trace of amusement. "It was peace. And it was achieved with something you and your empire clearly lacked: humility." Malker's gaze flickered with an emotion too complex to name. For a moment, he said nothing, before replying, "You've taken everything from me. Not just my fleet, but my empire's belief in its own infallibility. And yet, he paused, looking as though the weight of his next words threatened to break him. And yet, I understand now that you were right. Reyes raised an eyebrow, surprised by his candor. And what exactly do you understand, Chancellor? That fear alone can't rule forever, he said, the words coming reluctantly. Your people have shown us that. We believe that by keeping the galaxy terrified, we could ensure our place. You've proven that such a strategy is ultimately fragile. Reyes smiled faintly. It's funny, isn't it, she said, leaning back in her chair, her gaze never leaving Malker's image. How something as simple as laughter can destroy a centuries-old system of terror. Not a single shot fired, no death toll, just the sound of joy shaking the foundations of an empire. For a moment, the Chancellor was silent, his hands clasped tightly together, as if he were trying to hold on to something that was slipping through his fingers. What happens now? He asked quietly. Reyes leaned forward, her tone shifting. Now, we rebuild. The galaxy has a chance to move on from the past. You'll need to step aside, Chancellor. The Empire is no longer yours to command. Malker's head drooped, his face marked by the grimness of the moment. What is left for me? I am a relic now, a symbol of everything that failed. Reyes' eyes softened, though her voice remained resolute. There's always something left, Malker. Even for the broken. You'll find a place among the New Order, as long as you understand that you can't lead with fear anymore. The Empire's old ways are dead. But perhaps you can build something new, if you want it. The transmission flickered, and the image of Malker faded into static. Reyes sat back, staring at the empty screen. It wasn't satisfaction that she felt, nor joy, it was relief. For once, they weren't fighting. The war had ended. And the true challenge, the long road of reconstruction, had only just begun. Ever watchful, stepped closer. Do you think he'll do it? Step aside, I mean. Reyes didn't look at her, her attention still on the now dark screen. He will, if he's smart. Power built on fear doesn't last. He saw that firsthand. She turned to face her officer, meeting her eyes. The future belongs to those who know how to change. There was a pause as the weight of those words settled between them. Then Ree spoke again, her voice quieter this time. What about us? What do we do now? Reyes smiled, a genuine expression that reached her eyes. Now, we help rebuild what was lost. We show the universe that peace is more powerful than any weapon. She walked toward the window, watching as human ships, some of them freshly constructed, others converted from the remains of enemy ships, began to align above Olio's prime. Behind her, Ree stood silently, taking in the new horizon. The battle was over. The fleet was victorious, not because of their weapons, but because of their hearts. Let's get to work, Reyes said, turning to face the room. Humanity has a galaxy to rebuild. And we have a lot of people to teach about laughter. And as the ships in the distance began their slow descent to the surface of Olio's prime, the first rays of true peace broke across the sky, reflecting off the crystal spires that had witnessed a universe-changing moment. Humanity had won, not through force, but through the simplest and most enduring of tools, humor. And from that moment on, the galaxy would never be the same.